folks, welcome back. You're with Pewter City Jim here, and we're carrying on with our new Fakemon region today. We've got a couple of evolutionary lines in the new decks already, with a new Rotom variant and our grass starter. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and break down my ideas for the fire starter of our as yet unnamed region for our hypothetical game. Working titles. No, really, I'm just kidding. Let's head on down to the lab and start on that design process, shall we? So there are a couple of things to keep in mind with a fire type starter anytime you work on a Fakedex. The first and most prominent is the Chinese zodiac influences. If you were unaware, the canon fire starters for each region have a loose connection with the 12 animals that represent the different signs of the Chinese zodiac. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Scorbunny for rabbit, Tepic for boar, Charmander for dragon. Some are a bit more of a stretch. I do not think rat when I look at Cyndaquil, for example. And Fennekin is a fox, which are only really tangentially related to dogs. Same with Litten and tigers. Anyway, as of this script being written, we're in Generation 8, and that leaves 4 of 12 critters to pick from. Snake, ox, ram, and horse. These have all been done before in other Fakemon regions, honestly, and really well in a lot of cases. I was tempted to throw tradition to the wind. The last thing I want to wind up doing is treading on toes should the creature I create edge in too closely against someone else's work, and so I initially wanted to do a different animal entirely. But then I decided to go with the ram. Look, I come from a rural town in a small country that is known for rugby, Taika Waititi, and sheep. I was doomed from the start. So, sheep. Bah! We have a few related Pokemon to draw inspiration from in the canon Pokédex. Mareep and its evolutions, Whimsicott, Skiddo, Go-Go, Ulu, and Double. And there's also other fire types that fall into the same sort of hoofed farm animal category that we can look to as well. Tepig and Ponyta lines especially. The trick is trying to draw the line between inspiration and imitation. As much as I love all of these Pokemon, I don't want to create a regional variant. At least, not for my starter. The region I'm creating is loosely based on Southern California, where I currently live. Surprisingly enough, for a relatively arid spot, we have some cool native creatures of the hooved and horned variety that I'm going to lean on for reference as well. One other influence I'd be remiss in omitting: the personality of the starter Pokemon. Like I said last time, I like the idea of each one having its own vibe and character traits that make it feel more complete as a character. These are creatures that should inspire you to make friends with them, and that's harder to do when a creature's personality is a blank slate. I also like the idea that each starter trio should have like a cool one, a funny one, and a serious one. This was an idea put forth in an interview about the Unova starter trio before Black and White's release. Penkelis definitely takes the spot for the funny one, being as it's a prankster. This sheep then has to either be cool or serious, and well, it's a sheep on fire. Doesn't sound exactly chilly to me. Serious it is. Here are the sketches I did, and you'll notice a lot of them are pretty similar with just minor tweaks. I had a few ideas on how I wanted it to look already. My initial idea was for it to be covered in wool that looked like smoke, but then I thought that the color palette required there might make it seem kind of gray and boring looking, so I went with Ponyta's design philosophy of, oh, all of my hair is on fire. I wanted its pose to be one of scuffing its hoof on the ground, but without accompanying motion and with its little sausage legs, my wife told me that it looked confusing and uncomfortable, so I just went with legs akimbo as if it's getting ready to charge. I decided to 86 the horns and instead gave it some pretty gem warp accents. This is kind of a callback to its shared heritage with Ampharos, and the extra cooler red gives it a cute, bright quality. At least, I think so. I borrowed light, gentle colors and shading to keep it looking friendly despite that facial expression, and dropped some bright blue on those hooves for contrast. And here we have Flamba. Flamba, the roasting Pokemon. Flamba don't possess wool, instead their whole body is covered by flame. Even when this Pokemon is asleep, its fire burns brightly. At night, fields of this Pokemon almost resemble a starry sky from a distance. Here are its base stats, and here are its moves. The name combines a few elements: flame, of course, lamb, ba, and flambe. For the middle stage, I wanted to look specifically at bighorn sheep. These horned beasties live in the mountains, chewing on rough vegetation and headbutting each other. I love how cool and curved their horns are in that steely gaze. It looks like it could charge up on you any second. I decided to tone the horns down a little bit from my actual design though. I didn't want it looking too finished, as this is supposed to be an awkward kind of middle evolution, right? Here's my sketching process, working out the kinks and how I wanted it to look. Again, I had the body shape in my head pretty much sorted, and it's just working on variations of that design to finish it up. I wanted it to have big, blasting heat mane, kind of like Embor's beard, and especially like the Cyndaquil line spikes. The idea that this flame is under high pressure, so it just kind of jets out. For colors, I wanted something rougher looking without sacrificing the fact that it's something you can befriend. I went with a darker brown for the main coat, and with that same cream color from earlier underneath. Bighorn sheep usually have white patches on their butts and legs, but I swapped those out for fire instead. Its gems have gone away to be replaced by horns that I colored the same blues as its hooves. Blue and brown always look nice together, as do blue and orange, so I was happy pretty quickly with my base color choice. And here comes Kidling, the headbutt Pokemon. Kidling range far and wide, as they are able to survive on even the driest, most desiccated plant life. They headbutt one another to see who's the strongest member of the herd. Their manes of flame grow larger and hotter as they grow in strength. Here are its base stats, and here are its moves. Kidling is kind of a simpler name, and it's still one I may want to revisit. Bighorn sheep look more like goats than the woolly domestic sheep we're used to, and younger goats are referred to as kids. Kindling are the small bits of wood and sticks used to feed small fires until they're big enough to burn larger bits of fuel. Which seems fitting, as these Pokemon aren't fully evolved yet, but we'll see. Let me know in the comments if you have a better suggestion. For the final design, I veered away from sheep and goats and instead went with the Pronghorn. Most people call it an antelope, but that's not quite right. It's the last surviving member of its own order of mostly extinct mammals, and as such is super unique. To put it another way, it's more closely related to giraffes and llamas than actual antelopes. They're also ridiculously fast. Actually, they're the fastest land animal in the Western Hemisphere. And with that cool coat pattern, how is this not a Pokemon already? I love when Pokemon evolutionary lines diverge in terms of the real animals they're based on. Remember, while these creatures evolve sequentially, they're still supposed to be separate species in their own right. Cyndaquil goes from an echidna, or maybe a tenrec, I'm unsure, to weasel to bipedal honey badger, so definitely something we've seen before. My idea for this one was something fast. The idea that you'd see these things screaming across the desert and plains at breakneck speed looking like a comet, or maybe even down the freeway, weaving in between cars to beat the traffic to wherever they've decided they need to go. Jet-propelled headbutting contests at the bottom of canyons and in the clefts between mountains. I love it. Here's my sketches. The trick, for me anyway, when designing long-legged, lanky animals is that they shouldn't look awkward or gang. I wanted to showcase both the idea of speed and the grace of a real pronghorn, as well as a little bit of a cocky attitude. Have you ever noticed that speedy characters tend to have a fun, self-assured nature to them? They generally know that they can do anything they set their mind to, and the only real question that remains is how long will it take? I kept the colors from the prior two evolutions, reasserting the cream color as the dominant shade. And there's a lot more blue to it as well to accentuate its additional typing. Electric. Because what speedy character is complete without some crackling static? Those horns have metamorphosed into big exhaust jets, pushing out excess heat to keep internal temperatures stable and add some additional boost. The legs are now segmented, allowing for some stretch and more bend to lengthen strides and turn corners more efficient. And those wavy, spiky patterns on the real Pronghorn's coat translate pretty well into a lightning bolt motif as well. And here we have Combustilope, the dashing Pokemon. The fire in its body produces smoke so thick the particles rubbing together produce static electricity. It races around the desert, following lightning storms. It catches lightning with its horns to stoke its internal energy. Here are its base stats, and here are its moves. Much like Kidling, Combustilope is a simpler portmanteau-style name. Combustion plus antelope. I mean, it worked okay for combustion, so... And this is what its egg would look like. I love the idea of different species of Pokemon laying eggs that reflect what's inside, so these are the colors that I went with. And here's what the shinies look like. In terms of its ability, Blaze is the standard for all Fire-type starters, and it powers up Fire-type moves when the Pokemon's HP drops below 25%. For the hidden ability, I'm gonna go with Flame Body. Physical attacks against this Pokemon run you the risk of being burned. Plus, it lets you hatch eggs faster. And there we have it, folks, our Fire starter line. What do you think? Like I said, I was sorely tempted to do a different creature as the basis of the fire type, and I do have sketches and design ideas for something based on the Western Fence Lizard. You might remember that critter from our grass starter video, as they provided some inspiration there too. Let me know if you want to see a video where I show those sketches as well. In the meantime though, this has been Pewter City Jim, and I want to thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!